Low quality fans of a high quality, whoever your team is, baby, this episode's for everybody! I have a jersey for almost every playoff team. I'm missing one. You can't see all of them, of course. They're hung up throughout the entire house, but the frame can't fit them all. We got a couple of reverse retros, some old stuff, some new stuff. We love it. We love it all. I'll let you take guesses as to who I'm missing down in the comments. Guys, if you come here for the Boston-Washington preview, that's in the previous video. I'll mention it a little bit at the end, but this is going to be covering round one, my bracket, what I know will happen for sure, absolutely. I've never once been wrong on this channel before, and I know that for a fact because I have the memory of a goldfish, and I've never gone back to check any of my videos. So, good job by me, but in all honesty, a message to anyone who's new to the channel, welcome. And a message to anyone who's been with me throughout this year, this is the first year of the channel, guys, we did it. And I really want to thank you. 56 games have been covered, along with some extra little stuff in between. And that has been quite the journey. I know it's a shortened season, but it was very compact. This was a lot of fun to do. I will be continuing, obviously, to do it throughout the playoffs and then into next season. But I want to say thank you for all the support. If you could do me a favor with this one, obviously the like, comment, subscribe, especially comment. God, I love seeing your comments. But if you could share this one with your hockey buddies and discuss the brackets and tell them how stupid they are for thinking what they think and how smart we are for thinking what we think, because I just assume everyone's going to agree with everything I say. That'd be great. That'd be really superb. Also, one last house cleaning thing. Below, there's going to be a link for the bracket challenge that NHL puts out every year, just the NHL bracket challenge. I made a little league. It's public. Anyone can jump in. If you win it, I'll give you a shout out on a video. I don't have the money to be throwing around awards and stuff like that. Maybe next year. But I'd like to see some other people join, see what they think. You're going to look at my bracket and go, I can beat that. I can beat that. But I want to start with the North Division because I think the North Division has one of the most fascinating matchups and the literal most boring matchup. And the literal most boring matchup is where we're going to start because we're going to start it low and get high. Winnipeg, Edmonton. I can't find a way to care about this. And I know it's insane because McDavid is must-see TV. Draisaitl included, actually, in that. And Hellbuck kind of also. The problem is, the Edmonton Oilers have kicked the shit out of Winnipeg Jets this year. Not only that, but Connor McDavid has kicked the shit out of Hellbuck all year. I don't see that changing. McDavid has had 22 points in 9 games against the Jets. That's a lot of points. Now, that narrative is going to get flipped a little bit because I think the Jets are going to make this a really competitive series. Again, that's a point toward, well, that's interesting, not interesting, Loqual. I still don't care. And the reason I don't care is because I don't think either of these teams have any chance of going anywhere in these playoffs. I can make an argument for most of the teams in the playoffs. I could probably make an argument for 13 of them. Like a solid, they have a reason they could win this whole thing. Edmonton, McDavid has to play on a level far greater than what we've seen him play at this year. The Oilers are deeply flawed in some ways. The Jets, you would need a level of goaltending that has just not existed. I just don't see it. The Jets are trending the wrong direction for the past month. And the Oilers, although they've looked good, they just can't hold it together structurally. Playoffs are a different game. This series will go 7 games. The Oilers will have to sweat that out. But McDavid's going to light it up in Game 7. Hellbuck will be chased twice in this series. Early on, within the first 4 games. Game 7, game-winning goal, will go to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. And the game's not going to be close, so you're going to kind of forget about his goal. The series MVP will be McDavid. That's not going to surprise anyone. It shouldn't be anybody else. Now, one little thing about this series. The reason you should root for the Edmonton Oilers, let's see how far McDavid and Draisaitl can carry this team. Let's see what they can do. The reason you should root for the Jets, I mean, they're nice. No one hates them. You don't dislike them. If you're looking at the league, and say you've been a fan of the league for 40 years, and you just tend to hate every team at this point, because at some point, something happened where they did something to your team, and you're like, fuck them. I doubt the Jets are are high on that list of teams you hate. I really do. Summary, 7-game series. Oilers come out on top. But the other matchup gets interesting. This is the first time in 42 years that the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens will meet in the playoffs. Every previous time, one of those teams has won that series and gone on to win a cup. That probably changes this year, but hey, who knows? These franchises hate each other. They will split Canada in half during the series. God, I hope it's a long one. And I think it will be. But let's look at things from Toronto's side real quick. And I gotta say, this isn't an insult to the division, but Toronto has the easiest path to the Final Four. I think a lot of people are kind of going along with that. They've owned that division all year. They've played really well against pretty much everyone in it. They're coming in hot, other than their power play, which doesn't make any sense to me. How is that possible that you have a shit power play with that level of talent? Said the Bruins fan, who also has a shit power play right now with that level of talent. But for the first time in a long time, it feels like not only Toronto can carry their weight offensively, defensively, but also in net. And I think that's a little unfair because Frederik Andersen had a few years there where he did everything for that team. And I really hope they're treating him well up there because he's getting shifted out of the picture. Jack Campbell's taken over. He's looking good. Andersen deserves a lot of respect for what he endured for a long time. And it sucks that this kind of year he's fallen off a bit because he doesn't get to reap the benefits of some of his hard work. But in your main three phases, Toronto looks pretty good. And Montreal don't. Montreal's possession numbers all year are pretty good. And they've been buoyed by the fact that they started really hot with it. They have been dropping. But regardless, that team can play together. And Gallagher's coming back, which is huge. And if Carey Price gets hot, we keep hearing if Carey Price gets hot. Carey Price hasn't been hot in 3 years. This is a strictly story-based divisional matchup. This is not so much about who's going to outskill who, because we know who's going to outskill who. But this is willpower versus skill. Montreal can take the narrative. If they win early, they get the first game, maybe the first two, things get really interesting. Unfortunately, that will not be happening. Toronto will win this series in 6 games, and it's actually not really going to be that close. They only get there because both the games Montreal wins are in overtime. One of them, a very lucky bounce. The Habs are counting on the hockey gods to answer their prayers, to want the narrative to fulfill itself. Those prayers will fall on deaf ears this year. Montreal, out in 6. Game-winning goal in Game 6 will be scored by Willie Nylander. And in a losing effort, your MVP of the series will be Toffoli. In summary, Toronto in 6. And that takes care of our Northern Division right there for round 1. You got Toronto and Edmonton moving on to the second round. Get excited, guys. You're welcome. I put Toronto into the second round. Crazy. I'm a Bruins fan, if you haven't noticed. Reason to root for Toronto. Don't. They have a big enough fan base. They're doing fine. They are a young team that's going to have this window open for a long time. There's no reason other than you are a fan of Toronto to root for them. Trust me on this one. Other than Joe Thornton, I guess. All right, that's the asterisk, Joe Thornton. Reasons to root for Montreal? No. Absolute chaos. You want to see Canada burn. You want to see the world erupt. Because if Toronto wins the series, they were supposed to. But if the Canadiens win it, Now let's move over to our younger brothers in the Central Division. Compared to that last matchup, this is some young teams right here. We got Carolina and we got Nashville. This would be the other matchup where you go, maybe that's not really that interesting. This should just be a shit kicking, right? And it super will be. But Carolina is that much fun to watch because they play such a cohesive, possessive game. I'm looking at this series the way a lot of people are. This series is Saros versus a hot, young, dynamite team. And not only that, this Hurricanes team has a coach that knows how to get them playing. Everyone on that team talks about how they would run through a wall for that guy. In the playoffs, that goes a step higher. I don't think the Predators have a chance in this one. This will be ugly. There will be some blowouts, and the Canes are going to win it in 5. The only reason I'm giving Nashville 1 game is just to respect what they've put together in the past month. They're coming in hot. They earned their playoff spot. You get 1 game. You squeak it out. It's actually probably a game you win by a few goals. But yeah, you're getting shellacked the rest of it, guys. That's it. Canes in 5. The game-winning goal in Game 5 will be scored by Sebastian Aho. And it's going to be a fun little play where I believe Aho is going to look for the pass, fail the pass, recollect the puck, finish it. That is exactly how that's going to go. And your series MVP, Trocheck's going to have a good one. He's going to go off for a few games. So look out for that. Reason to root for Nashville. Underdog, man. That'll be fun. They've never won anything. There's no reason to dislike them. Just an underdog. Reason to root for the Canes. Finally no longer an underdog. Really fun, lovable, fast team. Great coach. They have a lot of reasons you can just like them as a hockey team. Unless you're a traditionalist. And then you can just start tweeting at Don Cherry about them wearing weird colored socks. Summary. Canes in 5. Let's go. Florida Panthers. Tampa Bay Lightning. Technically, Florida being the higher seed, but I believe Florida's an underdog in this one. I think you agree with that. Tampa is returning players Stamkos and Kucherov. Regardless how you feel about that, that team gets real good. Actually, I should give my opinion on that. I understand the frustration. And as a team who has lost to Tampa, quite embarrassingly, a few times the past few years, I am not mad at the Tampa Bay Lightning for what they're doing. I'm not. The timelines match up close enough to give them a little bit of gray area, and the league knew perfectly well this was possible to do. This is not something you can look at the Lightning organization and go, you're cheating scum. This is something where you go, it's a loophole. You already had a guy on an injury. He was going to be shaking off rust anyway. It's still a little bit of a risk to you because how much rust was he able to shake off? But this really falls on the league. Big time. So, if you want to get pissed about this, in my opinion, get pissed at the league, not the Lightning. That being said, the Lightning get better with them back. Hedman, if he can pick up his play and go back to a Norris Trophy candidate, which he hasn't been this year, I really think we're in for another juggernaut option. Here's the problem with the series. Because of the new pieces coming in, and although they're great, there's going to be little lapses. The Florida Panthers are able to take a 3-1 series lead in this one. They're going to go up early, and they're going to have that strong lead, but they're going to have to sweat it out. This one is going 7, and it is going to be chippy, and it's going to feature at least one injury that we think sinks whatever team it goes against. So who comes out in Game 7? Well, let's think about it. The Panthers have speed. They have talent. Barkov might be the most underrated player in the league, or at least he's most famous for that. Bobrovsky, complete enigma. And Dreiger, who I'm not saying that right because I have not watched a lot of Panthers this year, looks like a fun story. Spencer Knight's sitting in the wings too. The Panthers are taking Game 7 over the Tampa Bay Lightning in a nail-biting fashion. And last year's champions will be wiped out early. Panthers in 7. Your game-winning goal will be Patrick Hornquist, just for funsies. And your series MVP is going to be Sergei Bobrovsky. Oh yeah, this series is going to get weird. Reason to root for Tampa. You like dynasties. You want to see this team from the South just piss off every Canadian in the world and keep winning. I shouldn't say every Canadian. There's a lot of Northern Americans as well that are... Hockey doesn't belong in the South! It does. Reason to root for Florida? Oh, there's a ton. It's a fun story. Bobrovsky's, like I said, completely fucked in the head. You have no idea what you're going to get out of him. If Spencer Knight takes over as a rookie after just 4 starts and lights it up, that'd be amazing. It's got the chaos option. It's a team that never wins anything. It's a team that most people don't hate. There's a lot there that could be a lot of fun for a lot of fan bases. Sam Bennett? You guys got like, what was it, 15 points in 10 games? There's a lot about the Florida Panthers that could be fun for this. The West Division! St. Louis! Colorado! This is going to suck for one side. This is going to suck so much for one side. I said that there were probably 13 teams I could make arguments for. 2 of them I eliminated early. Nashville, yeah, that's probably number 3. Maybe it should have been 12. St. Louis, oh, maybe they still have some magic in the bottle. Maybe they do. But they are outmatched to a level I don't think we'll see anywhere else in the playoffs. If they win a game, I will be shocked. And they won't. What do you do if you're St. Louis here? Seriously. You're back to being a plucky underdog like you were a couple years ago. And you made it to the finals that year, which is really neat. And then I kind of blacked out. I don't remember what happened in Game 5 with Achari against the wall and Bozak came across and took his feet out and oh my god, I remember everything. I'm going to be sick. I'm getting over it, guys. It's okay. I'm getting over it. I don't blame the series on that one trip, please. In all honesty, this should be an ass kicking. The Avalanche have just a shit ton of talent up top. They're strong possession numbers. They are number 1 in several offensive categories. They have one of the most creative and skilled defensive structures that can just pierce through any wall you build from the point. This is a team that can keep up with you offensively and defensively, and Grubauer coming back and looking good. Oh, that's the whole package right there. The Avs are going to win in 4, and it's not even going to be that close. Your game winner in Game 4 will be scored by Landeskog, and your series MVP, star players got to be star players. It's going to be McKinnon. Reason to root for the Avalanche? They haven't won in a while. They went through the dregs of the league a few years back. They were record-breakingly bad at times, and they've worked their way back up. They have a guy that many people consider the 3rd, maybe 4th best player in the league, and it's fun to argue about, is he actually better than, when will he surpass, blah. I think they're really, really fun, and they're an organization that there are certain teams, like the Red Wings, that are going to hate them, and that's fine. But if you're not one of those organizations that just can't look the Avs in the eyes, they're a real fun team to root for. Reason to root for the Blues? You like the underdog. That's all I got for you. They won recently. They've got a really, really controversial personality in goal. There's not a ton of stuff you can grab to there other than the underdog story. And even then, they already fulfilled the underdog thing, so not a lot there to go for the Blues. Especially if you're rooting for that Vegas-Colorado matchup in the second round, maybe there's just not reason to root for the Blues here. Minnesota and Vegas. Minnesota has gotten the better of Vegas throughout the season series. And that's pretty obvious if you've been kind of on their radar at all. People have blown that up. Here's the little asterisk. Vegas has outplayed Minnesota in most of those games when you talk advanced analytics. But the advanced analytic that I like the most, and it's not all that advanced, is high danger scoring chances. And Minnesota's hitting at almost a 20% better clip in that regard when they play Vegas. Minnesota is good at getting in front of the net, taking away chances for the other team, and creating chances for them. Kaprizov's great, and he's super fun to watch, but there's hard workers on that team that will get in front of a goalie's face, making Leonard or making Marc-Andre Fleury uncomfortable. Both of those goalies are good at dealing with that, but it's not a perfect scenario for them. Vegas is very disappointed to be playing this team. They're very disappointed the Avalanche were able to catch them and take the President's Trophy. I still think that on the back of how close Vegas has come, of the star power they have, and the goalies they have in net, I still think this goes Vegas' way. And yes, I'm right. Oh my god, yes! And not only is Vegas going to win this series, they're going to win it in 5 games. The narrative of Minnesota owns Vegas is going to collapse quickly and early. This is going to be 5 really close games that just keep going Vegas' way. Only one game will end with a lead bigger than 1. Not only that, but your series MVP will be whichever goalie is in net for Vegas. I'm going to go with Fleury here. I think Fleury is going to play most of those games. Game-winning goal, Game 5, you ask? Well, that'll be Max Pacioretty. A little shout-out to you, Canadians. Man, I took all these fun notes, but for the most part, I'm just ranting and yelling at you. The reason to root for the Golden Knights is they technically haven't won anything, right? They haven't won a Stanley Cup. They're a very fresh team, though. And I am a little bit of a pain in the ass where I kind of go, I want you to earn it. I don't want a fan base to come out of the gate and be like, we're great all the time. The way that they fell out of the playoffs previously with that phantom 5-minute call, and we can all agree it was a bad call. It's an unfortunate injury, of course, but it's a bad call. The way that they came out of that series, that's paying a due or two right there. Vegas are a fun team. They're a good team. They're hard to hate right now. Off you go, Vegas. We're cool with you. Reason to root for the Wild? Is there a reason not to? They've got a 23-year-old rookie phenom, so unless you're a Dallas fan, you're like, that guy's great. And they're just never good. They're always mediocre and boring. But this year, they're not mediocre and they're fucking fun. This might be their only chance ever to be relevant. That's not fair, but it's fair. This team has a chance to make some noise. That fan base deserves it. They really do. They're fun to root for. Either team in this series moving on is going to be interesting going forward. I still want my Vegas-Colorado matchup. So I'm going Vegas in 5. And to the East Division, the Islanders and the Penguins. This is a tale of two teams going in opposite directions. The Penguins have continued to build and seem to get better and better. They have 4 lines where they can realistically score with. Their defense has held up even though they have players like Cody Ceci and Mike Matheson. But both those guys look pretty good. Very surprising to see some of these acquisitions just work. And that's what the Penguins organization does, man. I fucking hate them. But they are just a great organization. They know how to work in this league, and they know what they're doing when it comes to picking up free agents, undervalued guys other than Jack Johnson. They're a great team. The only question is, can their goaltending keep up? We know their scoring's there, but if they get into a shootout, can they beat everybody? Because their goaltending has moments, not very elite. And no elite goaltending usually means no cup. The trick here is, if your opponent can't score, it doesn't fucking matter, does it? The New York Islanders have been bad the past month. They have fallen off of a cliff. But Varlamov has the capability of getting hot. They still have star players who can score. But things haven't seemed right over at the Coliseum this year. Not late in the year, at least. I don't see this team being able to reignite the magic that they found earlier in the season, before injuries and whatnot, because they faced some major ones. But I do see them being very competitive because I think Varlamov's going to get real hot early on. But at the end of the day, modern sports is a star-powered game. And in Game 7, the Penguins, they're going to take care of business. Pens in 7, your game-winning goal in Game 7 will be Malkin, because of the story. He's coming back. He's feeling healthy. And your series MVP will be Malkin. So, there you go. Reason to root for the Penguins. That's kind of a tough one. They've won a couple recently enough where you kind of like, I don't really want to see them win again. They have the star players, but a lot of people, if you're not a fan of the team already, you don't like those star players at all. Most people don't like Crosby unless he's on your team. I don't know. I would say probably because you want to see whatever the second round would be between them and the Capitals or them and the Bruins, which, I mean, whoever survives that series then has to go play the Penguins in another heated battle. Whoo! Yeah, that's probably your biggest selling point, is I want to see the shit show of the East continue. Where the Islanders, again, I like that franchise. I like what they do. I have a soft spot for them. But that matchup is nowhere near as interesting with whoever comes out of the Washington Capitals series as it would be with the Pens. It just wouldn't be. But the reason to root for the Islanders, you got a soft spot for them. Last year in the Coliseum, they're packing up after that. You want to see them go on a bit of a run, and I get that, and I appreciate that. They're good guys over there. Their fucking mascot makes no sense. It's a goddamn dragon. It's a lacrosse team. I don't give a shit. You're hockey. Bossington. Waston. I already did a video on this. But I'm not a clickbait artist. If you don't want to watch the other one, but you want to know what I think about this series, Boston is going to win this series in 6 games. There's too much star power up front. The defense is well structured enough, and our goalie is going to get hot. We are going to win this in 6. Your series game-winning goal in Game 6 will go to Craig Smith, and your MVP of the series will be David Krejci. What I'm not doing, because the video's already getting too long, is going into full detail breaking down that series. because I did already do a whole video on that, and I am going to leave that over there. Let's bring up the bracket. So as you'll see, I don't have a lot of upsets in the first round based on seeding. I think my biggest calls here is Florida winning over Tampa Bay, even though they're a higher seed, and, of course, Boston moving on over Washington. But the Boston over Washington, because if you look at since the trade deadline, doesn't feel like an upset for Boston to win. The North is two teams that absolutely should win their series. Same with the West. So maybe it's not that fascinating at a glance to look at this bracket. But there's a lot of storylines going on around. And I'm really excited to see what you guys think. Because I know that this is exactly how it's going to happen. Everything. All of it. Exactly. Correct. The best part about the playoffs this year, to me, is round 3. When the semifinals hit and we get to decide, finally, were we right? Was the North Division a little bit weaker? And are they going to get kind of stunned in the first couple games against a really challenging team? Or are they just going to blow everyone out of the water and you go, oh, wow, the North was actually probably pretty strong. We see this happen every year where a team you don't expect to be that good just starts flying. And if you build up 2 good series in a row and you're feeling good about yourself, that North team could be really dangerous. But maybe we're also right with some of these narratives. And we go, well, playing in weaker divisions led you to being a little less structured come playoff time. And it ended up costing you a game or 2, which ended up costing you a series. Let's fucking do this. I'm so excited. Tomorrow night, baby! And because I have to, because it is a Bruins channel, go be